All right, you folks, on the audio tip, we'll be there in a second. All right then. Welcome back to the Foxhole. AfterShoX 053. In other words, Season 2, Episode 21. I know, we are really cruising through Season 2 already. It's been that long. It's been a lot of fun. It's only going to get fun. More fun, I should say. Anyhow, we always thank our partners in tech for making this happen. I'm your faithful host, Kid Harlan, here, coming from Eagle's Nest to Studio B on a terrific Thursday. Sorry for getting this out late this week, but you know, when you have World Cup semis in the middle of the afternoon, yeah, those off everything. Anyway, I'm going to be part of the experience. There's a lot of good interviews still to come this summer. FTINFX at gmail.com or call the hotline 541 525 0896. Where do we start with episode 53? Well, how about this one for starters? Yeah. The cup and the cream bubbling over the mug. You know, they always say the cream rises to the top. And in this particular contest, with the top four seeds making it to the final four, which I don't think has ever happened, courtesy of our man Adam Smith of the Cascade Aces, always breaking down knowledge whenever I go to the watch parties with him. A lot of fun with that crew moving forward. Just wait and see. But yeah, it's been an extraordinary couple of weeks. A lot to unpack with this discussion. You can see I'm sporting a little LAFC as the MLS resumes tonight, so that's pretty exciting. Although some of the people I've been hanging out with who like the Denvers don't quite feel that way, but somehow they're getting together and watching anyways. Yeah, you make sense of that. Not a jab at you guys. Just, you know, I tend to be a little bit more positive when it comes to my MLS fandom. Especially if I'm going to use the energy to get up and meet somewhere and have a few beverages on a school night, no less. Okay, let's get right into this. Like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We can always use the engagement. Really kind of lagging in that department. Help a brother out. Like, subscribe, tell your friends to. Really needing to get the number of subscribers up before the summer's over. Thanks to all of you who've joined the experience, and the numbers are slightly going up. We appreciate you. Tell your friends as well. Let's get cracking. Well. We're going to start with France. Les Bleus. Flaming out. And then Mbappe taking a lot of slings and arrows. Well, you know, if you follow my platforms, you know I've had a long history with Kai Kai. Yes, I have. And I don't want to put it all on his shoulders, but when you are one of those folks who were supposed to take the torch, even though Messi's not showing any signs of letting it go anytime soon, even though your mom may have something to say about that, and even then, yeah, Messi ain't giving up Jack. Mr. Mbappe, complaining about the tactics. We know Didier Deschamps is on his way out, and Mr. Zidane is coming in. So typical for Kylian to, have a pity party. I know about this from my 7 years dealing with him as a PSG fan. It is what it is. In the end, he still has a World Cup on his resume. No UCL as of yet. You know, it took Messi a long time to get to where he's at as far as filling out his resume. I don't think we should be too harsh on Mr. Mbappe. I think some of the other guys on that team need to be looking at themselves in the mirror and just be like, what happened? What happened? Well, what happened? And that's why it's a beautiful game life. And I was down at the pint pot with my Cascade brethren. You know, that's part of their Timbers Echo Army thing. And I said, you know, watching these guys, whether at PSG at one time or currently, as talented as they are, it would never be a stretch for these folks to get lost in their heads, which is exactly what happened with a really strong team like Spain defending the way that they did. They start becoming head cases. I've seen it far too many times. Not the end of the world, especially for the PSG guys who now can finally get some rest after they play England in the consolation game. More on that in a second. And concentrate on trying to be historic and winning their third UCL. Yeah. You know, the funny thing, though, before I move on, isn't it funny, the haters? You know who you all are, the peanut galleries out there in the world. Finding a way to hate on PSG. How many comments did I see? Isn't it amazing how PSG players look mid outside of Luis Enrique's system? They were in the semifinal. They were in the final last time. Come on, man. Stop it with that clown nonsense. Hating on PSG has nothing to do with it. You know, guys, it being 2026, almost the 50th anniversary of, what was it, the Silver Jubilee, which gave us the Sex Pistols and all kinds of other classics from that year, in the same way that 1966 is a pivotal moment in England as well. As we all know, we follow the beautiful game life. Wow, lot to unpack here. As Argentina rallies with 2 late goals to knock England out again. And England, looking for that moment, that generational moment like they had in 1966, will have to wait another turn. A lot of emotion there for both sides. I mean, it was always funny, and I think, once again, Adam Smith, give this man his flowers, because I had totally forgot about it. It was odd that this was the first time that Messi had ever played England. It's like, oh, wait, there was the Islands Malvinas, the Falklands kind of thing back in 1982. Yeah, okay, makes sense. And probably Argentina gonna get a fine for busting out the little Malvinas banner. Sure, the folks don't want to have any of that, but cab fair as far as the fines go, and the way their fans are so elated, for sure. They'll probably pay it for them. Flip side of it, because somebody has to lose. Yes, the Lions got it again. All the luminaries, they're sporting their BD or C or whatever it is, energy for this moment. Lady Low. Yeah, props to Alexi. I know y'all hate him. But hey, actually said, hey, you're being brave and strong, but we know you're dying inside. A lot of my friends that I grew up with, being a military kid, that were stationed there or had RAF connections and were like on loan, whatever the case may be, saw their reactions on the internet. So, yeah, it was an interesting moment in time, for sure. And give Argentina all its flowers. This is going to be a great final. Either way, it would have been great. That's what happens when the cream bubbles to the top of the mug, spills on the table, and you got to wipe it up. But you don't. You're like, I'm going to lick this. This cream is so good. Don't be disgusting, folks. We're talking like the real cream. I know. I mean, it was interesting to league into this because you had to wonder, right, did England have what it took? I know Thomas Tuchel is getting all kinds of grief right now about the tactics. He's watching FS1 while I was rigging all this stuff up. And, maybe rightfully so. I don't know when it comes to how much heat you want to give Thomas Tuchel. We know he's re-upped and he'll be there through the 2028 Euros. So why wouldn't he be there in the next World Cup cycle if you believe in him that much? Top at this stage. These are 4 really good teams. This ain't like some BS like the U.S. men's national team. God, what a perfect segue, huh? Because we didn't get the ultimate Messi moment, but we got Messi and his boys rising to the occasion once again. Like I said, this final is going to be great. The third place game, even though both teams were rejected, that should be compelling to England and France. Yeah. Woo. Like I said, we're cooking here. A lot going on. But let me, the United States men's national team never had a chance. We've always knew they're punching above their weight class when you get to this point in the competition, even in an expanded field. But I love the ongoing debate between the old heads and the new heads. Where is the truth in this debate? There's a lot on the table here. The pay for play, yes, yeah. And basically how committed these guys are compared to where we are. All the usual faces. Mr. Donovan, Mr. Winalda, Mr. Lawless, and a cast of others getting their 39 cents in. Because this is what they do. Boy, I don't know where I want to reside in this. Because when I go back to the point of leveling my expectations and not getting all caught up in the joy of having a World Cup on our soil and drinking the Jonestown Kool-Aid, feeling we might have a chance to actually do something in this competition to make a deep run, right? You put down the bong, you put down the hen, and kind of realize that was never in the cards. And so, listening to you guys pile up on CP10, who is injured, or some of the other guys, and then trying to figure out what direction we can go in U.S. soccer, and Miss Cone needs to be fired. More on this later. It's just exhausting at this point. We just ain't that good. It ain't in our DNA yet. Can it be in the next decade? Definitely. But that ain't right now. So let's look forward to a fabulous weekend as we wrap up the World Cup. Which gets me to the next point. The MLS, which resumes tonight. El Trapago tomorrow. That's why I'm already sporting the old school. Now we can say that with the YouTube TV, LAFC's first kit sponsor. Oh my God. The MLS and their messaging. Thanks, world. We'll take it from here. The last thing the peanut galleries wanted to see. Yeah, I know my people who are, and I say my people, my friends that are, they're Timbers fans, but we have a joint love for our soon-to-be beloved Cascade. Yeah. A lot on that as the months moving forward. Let's not stumble on our words here, Ken. But the messaging, not from them, others, not happy. Anytime you get a chance to use MLS as a punching bag, because there's so much more elite soccer in the world, and that we have to be subject to this rubbish league that will not move into reality. Yeah. I say earlier, if that is truly the case, then why the F are you still following it? I get frustrated with MLS. I get frustrated with my black and gold. But that's tired of this rant. Of course, I can't disagree. You can't come up with it after an incredible window we've had with this World Cup, especially being in the Americas. This is definitely kind of a letdown. Just given there's some really good teams in MLS. There's a lot of mediocre teams in MLS. Kind of like the leagues in the rest of the world. But because we don't have Pro Rel and many other big talents, lots of money, and the money stays within the weird closed system the MLS is. Can't argue with the peanut galleries when it comes to that sort of thing. I got to be fair there. Yeah. All right, we're rambling, but this, I get folks not being too thrilled with. Come on, man. Thanks. We'll take it from here. And right, the purists are like, how long before the Prem and La Liga start? Facts. Okay. Well, it is interesting too, and I'll close out with this one because this is the World Cup's over, so this is a little bit extended. So I thought I would rant and rave a little bit. In fact, it's taken me forever to get this out. But this talk of the World Cup following everything else in this lifetime, they went from 32 to 48. No, I mean, they went to 32. That's what I said. They're going to skip 48. They're going to actually go to 64, which has the soccer peanut galleries. A lot of heads combusting over this. Yeah, I don't know what to think either. We know adding more teams to the college football playoff didn't work. Adding more teams to this competition was good. Yes, there was probably some unnecessary matches and some people who really had no business to be there, but it didn't diminish from a spectacular World Cup. No. But I do believe if doubling that, which will give us more soccer and more excuses to play hooky, yeah, double-edged sword as far as that goes. That's what the Foxhole thinks about expanding the World Cup to 64 teams. They're going to probably do it anyways. You better find ways to like it, and we'll see. Everybody screamed Bloody Mary about this one, and in the end, yeah, you've got your complaints, but you still have come away feeling like you've gotten your experience worth. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break here in the Foxhole. We will be back with something else when we return on the AfterShoX 53. All right then. Welcome back to the Foxhole. Let me look over here real quick. Yeah, all right. Just to make sure we're framed. We're still working out some stuff. It's always simple that one person crew most of the time on this to actually make sure things are framed right. Just make sure that the lighting is right so the green screen effects don't get too crazy. Make sure the right mic is muted, and the proper one is unmuted, blah, 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 blah. Never my problems, but hey, thanks for putting up with some of the technical snafus that come with being a one-person production crew and trying to actually put out a good product. Ain't as easy as it looks, but hey, as Brad Pitt, aka Cliff Booth, says, and his sequel's getting ready to come out, we try. Okay, what are we going to call this segment? We're going to call this second. Okay. I think I told you all I was going to go out to the whole Bob Weir tribute at the fair. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Anyways, yeah, more on that later. But I always think of Hell in the Bucket because, Bob, that's definitely a wonderful Bob song from In the Dark. Very seminal, actually. And I just call this segment I think I'm going to hell in a commode and we ain't enjoying the ride. Okay? Well, maybe that's a little bit harsh because not all this stuff is bad. But number one, the NBA Europe and Silver's clever ploy to use the backdrop of the World Cup to promote this upcoming league. Can it work? I don't know. I'm kind of curious about that. I think it's a perfect time to sell this concept. And as far as we are going to have a global basketball, the competition is going to be the FIBA thing that they do now, or FIBA, whatever you call it. It's going to kind of turn into a World Cup like competition, with kind of Champions League with the continents, and I can just see it happening because he's sort of looking at, that's what we're kind of doing this in-season tournament. And I was, crapping all over people like Jason Whitlock for their rants about, soccer is permeated itself into all aspects of American sport. Of course, people like Whitlock think it's a case of it being feminized. I'm not going there. I think that's fine. You want to make that comment because you don't like soccer, but it is interesting because the in-season tournament and now this whole NBA Europe, especially seeing some of the talent that's been coming over here now pretty much since, I don't know, the 90s, maybe slightly before that. Obviously, way more in this century in between NBA Europe, NBA Africa. A global league may be here closer than we realize. Just saying. The NBA Summer League has been going on, and it's provided some wonderful TV, I guess, sports TV, in this time where the MLS is on pause. Ain't nobody watching the NWSL. We'll talk about the Queens in a minute as far as that goes. But there are not a lot of offerings on TV, especially with the All-Star break, which we'll also talk about in a minute or two. Very quiet window in the middle of July, which is probably a good thing because you should be outside enjoying the sun, doing something cool, as opposed to being locked into the TV. Because you already played hooky catching the World Cup games in the middle of the daytime. Okay, let's get back on the tracks, though. The NBA Summer League, why it works, because it does provide an alternative in a window where there's not a lot of entertainment going. What else does it do? Well, it also gives us a look at possible next-gen talents. I mean, we're still trying to, embrace maybe 2 rounds of Gen Xers. Next Gen Xers, not Gen Xers, but next gen type players, because we still won't let go of the LeBron, Curry, KD triumvirate that seems to be the Kawhi in there somehow too, because he's decorated. But that era of the NBA, somehow the NBA and the networks are holding on to that as long as they can. Pumping in oxygen. Hey, maybe we need to go to Ted Williams route and do some cryogenics so we can still find a way to fast track that and keep this era going. But yes, you get to see all these other talents until they're shut down, which is always kind of the bummer. It's like, okay, I finally have figured out where these games are. And of course, if you're a Laker fan like me and want to watch that kid, what's his name, number 43, who's actually been doing pretty well, I got to go to Prime. I'm not going to go to Prime to watch a Summer League game. And the game's on ESPN or, It is what it is. And I love when people say, what would you rather watch, a Summer League game or a Queens of the Court game? And I've been watching the Summer League games because the Queens on the Court have been driving me up the wall. Okay. If you see that graphic next to me, this is why the Queens on the Court fatigue has totally set in. As they say, they ask, My nobody good wants to play over there. So Chelsea Gray of the Las Vegas Aces, she's a guard. Apparently, when they got their butts kicked by the Indiana Fever, somebody dropped, as you can see in the graphic next to me, a pretty vulgar tweet. And this guy, after people did the sleuthing necessary, he's out of a job. Rightfully so, I think. Only because if you are in any type of employment where being a racist or sexist douchebag and you put it out there in public, well, you got what was coming to you. There have been enough examples of people pooping the bed by hitting send and losing their jobs. It is very simple. Do not freaking do it. Anyways, the whole thing was, see, these are Indiana Fever fans, and all they're out, they're just a bunch of racists, or it's just a bunch of Caitlin Clark fans. Turns out, the guy's just a degenerate gambler, which is a whole nother problem we've been talking about as well, with the proliferation of gambling and people becoming toxic when they get clean when things don't go their way. And that's what you get for betting on the WNBA. It's just been crazy because, you move controversy aside, and I know people are going to say, well, they're women, they're more sensitive. Sensitive or not, maybe it's true, maybe it's not. Still, you don't have to have an incendiary tweet like that and no consequences. The overreaction because men have that happen to them all the time, sure, but that doesn't make it right. So, folks, you folks who content over everything, stop pushing that narrative with, sure, okay, women are more emotional. But if somebody's being a D-bag, doesn't mean, well, hey, I can man up and deal with it. It's just not right, period. My goodness. This Caitlin Clark thing. I'm ad-libbing here, freestyling. The temper tantrum she had last night in their loss to the Valkyries. My, oh my, oh my. And I was watching some content earlier. Fearless had a couple of cultists and Maurice of Keep Division. I forget the other cat's name. By the way, bro, fix your sound, I know I have those kind of problems, but if you're going to yell and act like a fool over your Ivory Queen, and mind you, most of the people who are the big Caitlyn cultists and the huge content creators somehow drawing people in and getting compensated for exploiting her as much as she can happen to be brothers. I mean, the brothers are more psychotic about Caitlyn than all of these white Nazi racists who who the women in this league always tend to point out as far as bringing the toxicity to all of this. Yeah. Oh, man, and Kathy not showing up to Dan Patrick. Basically, it just, that guy been saying for a while why this league continues to be the most unlikable league of them all, with some of the most unlikable characters. And watching Caitlyn turn into this entitled, well, I'm just going to be nice. She's just an entitled brat. I was going to say something else, but you know what? We're trying to make this show a little bit more cleaner, for the algorithms, where you don't have to be vulgar when you don't have to be. Just use your imagination there. But good grief, man. It just, I don't understand. Why are we trying so hard to make Caitlyn this generational player? Can it just happen? I mean, the people drinking the Kool-Aid, the networks who obviously love racial disharmony, gender disharmony, sure, we get their motivations, but all you folks drinking the Kool-Aid and somehow creating content that you even got me watching until I don't watch, let it happen organically. But you guys should be working for Oliver Stone with all the conspiracy theories that you are always coming up with. And you guys somebody claps back at you, you guys double and triple down. Don't want to hear any of it. And how you guys think after that dud she did last night, y'all are trying to say she's in the same stratosphere as a Messi, a Harry Kane, and then Mbappe, let alone LeBron, Curry, and Durant, Ant-Man, SGA. You guys are fools. But because I guess we're really bored at this time of the year, this stupidity gets oxygen. And it is stupidity trying to make this chick more than she is. She's a very talented basketball player that, yeah, folks aren't rolling over and throwing the rose petals and the gold dust where she walks. If she's going to become the GOAT, she's going to earn it. And acting like an entitled brat like she did last night and lately, and folks really starting to question the veracity of what comes out of her mouth and how injured is she. Yeah, I don't know. We'll be to be continued, as we always says. All right, let's get away from this toxic story and let's go to something even more weirder when we return. All right then. Welcome back to the Foxhole. Your faithful host, Ken Harlan here. Ice cold chillin' like Kavicha Karvachkalia on a terrific Thursday. Where are we going now? Well. We're going to call this segment Take Me Out to the Ball Game, Bring Me Some Antidepressants, and some Pepto. Well, let's talk about that damn All-Star game, shall we? All-Star weekend in general, or whatever you want to call it, the stretch of days. It's not really a weekend. It's basically Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and we should resume today or tomorrow. Part of the scenery. Okay, Home Run Derby on Netflix with my buddy and yours, L. Duncan, hosting. We knew that was going to be the waste treatment facility. I didn't watch it. I didn't have to. I just waited to the next morning to see how many YouTube content creators were posting all kinds of incendiary comments about that. People who had no business being on the telecast, Barry Bonds apparently telling lies, but just another crap fest, pretty much when it comes to MLB and the All-Star game and All-Star games in general. I mean, right? I guess the kid from St. Louis who beat Schwarber, the hometown. Folks were saying, "Oh, it was way too scripted." I didn't see it, but Netflix apparently was dropping hints that he had already won it. I mean, kid finished with a flurry, and it's good that somewhat unknown. I didn't know who the heck he was. Now, I will admit I don't watch MLB as much as I used to, and I do keep an eye on my Dodgers. But in terms of like having a really good meta view of what's going on in MLB, I'm not as sharp as I once was, and so I guess it shouldn't be too much of a stretch that I didn't know who the kid that won the home run derby was. But it's just like so many other things with MLB. It seems like it's really contrived, and that's really what I got out of it as far as the home run derby is concerned. Yeah, Netflix, you and L. Duncan deserve each other. You can sink each other's ships. I mean, getting kicked off the ESPN, ferry is one thing, but Netflix, as far as your sports forays are concerned, yeah, she's the perfect skipper of your version of the Titanic. The All-Star game itself, it's pretty much a wet blanket that needs to be discarded. It is. I watched it, and my goodness, so much to talk about. The whole thing with the Sandlot, AI Ray Charles, Miss America, which is, man, wow. Game itself, NL losing again. You know, they've won recently. You know, like last year they won, but in general, it's just a game like so many things that nobody gives a rat's ass about anymore. Now, that used to be the case when I was growing up. But as Cheese said in that classic scene of The Wire, we ain't back in the day. And Mr. Cheese, you are right. But I still have to wonder when it comes to MLB at this point. I mean, has baseball pushed the envelope too far in a quest to make the game more appealing to the generations in front of us or in front of mine? And the answer is maybe. I think that baseball at times has gotten too cute. And let's face it, the long season, yes, we've added this. We've added interleague play. Maybe interleague play should be, maybe it'll be 4 years so we can have something to look forward to. Maybe get back to a traditional game. I'm not saying some of the innovations aren't bad, but just to me, it feels like we're moving further and further from the game we always knew. There's probably a lot of things that a baseball fanatic will come on and applaud, but I'm not seeing that. Most folks are, you know, like what the get off the lawn types like me, just like, eh. And this all-star game to be as flat as a Mickey's that's been sitting in an attic since 1985 when you can still have the pull-up tops. So I don't know about your product at the end of the day, is what I'm saying. Yeah, I mean, I get what's happening with Shohei with the injury. Dodgers have to be careful. They're trying to make history. And why risk him? I mean, it's no pyro without Shohei. But if you're Doc Roberts with the brain trust, you ain't wasting Shohei on this bull jive. And I appreciate the folks that did. And it looks like everybody was having a good time in the city of brotherly love. Looks that way. But with Shohei, speaking of the Dodgers, gotta love it. You know, we have to politicize or make it race or gender about everything. You know, the Dodgers coming up visiting the White House. They've agreed to go, unlike a lot of teams. But when you find out that Mookie Betts, I forget, is it Kiki Hernandez? They say they have commitments. I think Mookie, his wife, was about to have another kid, and I forget what Hernandez. But it's not political. At least it doesn't look that way. But hey, why stop there when you can create a nice race baiting or political narrative? And just the folks belly aching about the Dodgers going to the World Series. Shouldn't you be bitching about a war that seems to keep going with Iran and the high oil prices that are probably impacting your travel plans? Instead of being able to snorkel down in Belize, you'll be lucky if you get to Sedona. You should be more pissed about that than the Dodgers going to the White House. Yeah. Man. But okay. The whole AI thing, the whole Sandlot, which I thought was funny, that more people from my era, right, because I'm the last of the boomers, beginning of Gen X, were like, this isn't a classic baseball movie. Why are they honoring this? Shouldn't it be the Bad News Bears? Well, I guess, but I think the Sandlot is a more wholesome message, a lot cuter than the kind of the vulgar. Yeah, I'm a valet guy, so I can totally relate, with what the Bad News Bears is based on. But I can see why they'd be going to the Sandlot. Ray Charles and the AI. Okay. We're in an AI age, and there is no ceiling or basement as far as, hey, if we can sell an idea, you'll survive. Yeah. I mean, that product is so putrid, who cares? Right? It's like, hey, they could have reincarnated Jerry Garcia and Jimi Hendrix or holograms, and it still wouldn't have saved that product. Just saying, man. Oh yeah, this is Miss America coming out there. This is not to pick on her like Whitlock did, but I gotta ask myself, with all the hotties showing their trade on every kind of social media platform, are you trying to tell me this is the best we can do for Miss America? Or maybe because there is so much opportunity to be lucrative on those platforms, I ain't wasting my time in no beauty pageant, yo. Ain't nobody got time for that. Seriously though, I don't want to sound too harsh here. I was just like, oh, okay, with all the hot stuff I see on my social media platforms, and this is who is representing us as Miss America. Okay. Alrighty, folks. When we come back, some parting shots and probable salty takes. See you momentarily. All right then. Welcome back to the Foxhole. Your faithful host here, Kid Harlan here, ice cold, chilling like Kavicha Carvich, making sure we got the right input going on. Yeah, we're still playing around with some different layouts and things like that. So bear with us. Hope that's not too much of a distraction. If it is, I'll do something in post or cut another episode if it doesn't turn out the way I think it should. But fingers crossed that this is going to be all to your satisfaction, and you tell your friends, and you like and subscribe to FTI and FX Media's YouTube channel. And if you have a hankering to come into the Foxhole and do an interview with me, a lot of fun stuff coming there. All right, where are we going now? It's time for some parting shots and probable salty takes. Let's start off with what the hell is going on in Ann Arbor. Been trying to run the 80 out of town. I mean, I don't know. He makes probably like 2.8, 2.9 mil. Trying to run him out of town. I don't think that is not working right. And I guess there's, all kinds of stuff coming out that because they have a former assistant, I believe. And he's suing the University of Michigan, for I don't know how many dollars. The point being is, he says there's a pattern of shenanigans that goes back to knowing about the sign stealing Connor Stallions scandal that kind of was the way for Harbaugh to get to the NFL. The university knew long ago, which we did too, I think, that we knew the university knew about this whole tawdry mess with Sharon Moore. Yeah, both of those schools in Michigan seem to be in turmoil. We've talked about the whole disgust Tom Izzo has with what's going on in East Lansing. And then it seems like the things are imploding in Ann Arbor. Ann Arbor, excuse me. Which, is this more about the environment that we've allowed happen since 2020? Or, gee, there's just a lack of, what do they call it? Institutional and administrative control at the top of these schools because you're too busy chasing the bag and the glory? Yeah. Okay. Since we're getting close to camps opening all over the land, it being mid-July, happened that quick. Let's start off with calling star 69 for Lamar Jackson. Why am I dialing star 69? I'm dialing star 69 because that is where Lamar Jackson is ranked in the NFL Network's latest top 100. He went from being high up to down to star 69. A lot of people, as you can imagine, because they're not quite Lamar sexuals. These are more for the culture. I'm not going to go as far as the Hustlers baiters pushing it, but yeah. More along the lines of the Hustlers. My goodness. I'll make sure I didn't miss anything here. People being upset, and I get that. They forget that he was hurt. He hasn't had a lot of postseason success. Varying degrees in terms of how much success you want to say Josh Allen has had. His numbers look better, but he ain't had that we're going to Disneyland moment either. Yeah. We get that. And I said, I don't know, way back before the draft, when I started looking at crystal balls, I thought this was going to be a pivotal moment for both of these guys. And I just think his peers are sending him a message saying, hey, man, you've been touted as a future belle of the ball. It ain't happening. And so you were hurt last year. We believe in you less right now. So it's up to Lamar, a multiple-time MVP winner, to prove us all wrong. The only way you're going to prove us all wrong is to get some jewelry. Same with you, Josh Allen. Nothing changes there. Doesn't matter because I think when the NFL and ESPN come up with these lists, this is just to get everybody riled up, whether it's fans and the players themselves, because, oh no, they didn't disrespect me like that. My Madden rating didn't go down like that. We're going to have a problem with that. And hey, if that's what motivates you, like Jordan and the slightest of slights that he needed to be a warrior and go do him, then y'all do you. Falling to 69 in the NFL top 100. Okay, one more football one. I've been talking about this for a while. And this is like, Christopher Nolan's Odyssey that's getting ready to open up, and everybody around here is trying to find a big enough screen. Because didn't he do it in 70 millimeter? Or is it 35? Anyways, going to be a nice print. I don't know about the direction he took with that, but whatever. Yeah, we'll see. The proof will be into the details. Don't get lost up at the story, Ken. The thing is, this thing with Mr. Ayuk. And every passing week, how this story continues to take odd and bizarre frigging turns. Yeah. Where you pretty much have the simps in the Commanders fan base and media basically saying, this guy is so toxic, if you let him anywhere near Redskins Park or Commanders Park, whatever the heck they call it now, we're going to have a problem. And we know the uneasy relationship the fans have with management after the rebranding and having to put up with Daniel Snyder and new ownership not wanting to distance themselves with a whole rebrand, because this is a Snyder rebrand. It's a tenuous at best relationship, especially after the Commanders fell to 5-12, after folks thinking they were going to go on a magic carpet ride for a minute with JD5. Neither here nor there. But let's get back to Brandon Ayuk. Have you ever seen somebody crater their future? I mean, not to mention the money he already threw away. And the way that this guy has done it. And continually posting videos, dancing around in the Commander's hat, making Commanders cheers, when you haven't communicated, as far as we know, with anybody in the building, because you can't. Because you won't play ball with the 49ers. It's like, when I think of guys like A.B. Antonio Brown and his shenanigans, and some of the other Devo receivers, once again, this guy's like saying, not hold my beer, not hold my keg, not hold my delivery truck. I got a whole brewery up in this bee. Wow. Okay. And just like that, we are at the end of the major cycle. So hold on a second here. Let me grab my phone. See? Always getting used to having all the props you need to get through an episode. And of course, everything's slow loading. So yeah, second half starts now, but that's not what I want to know. Yeah, I mean, I know, I'm trying to remember who was leading. So yeah, hold on a second here. Okay. Mr. Suber with 5 under. This is round 1 of the last major. It's just crazy because it just seemed like 5 minutes ago we were at Augusta, and now we're getting ready to close the major window. Obviously, it's off to the FedEx Cup playoffs as far as golf being, compelling. I've gotten used to the PGA being earlier in the year, and there's a trade-off for that. But yeah, you get to this point of the year, it's like, wow, this is the last chance, to get that essence that you get to take in watching the major championship. And the last one, it's always something special, especially they're going back to Royal Birkdale. I know that Rory, +3? I'm not sure what, let's see here. I think Scotty is, what is Scotty? He's -2, 68. I think DeChambeau is -3. I have to get a good look at the, obviously, by the time I get to doing Foxhole and a Foxhole, we'll get a better sense of the pretenders and the contenders as far as our last major is concerned. Get up a little bit early and get that USA Network coverage in. But of course, my Comcast app from the smart TV was acting a fool. I spent more time trying to deal with that than being able to watch the quality golf in round 1. Hopefully that's better as this weekend progresses along. Okay. We'll close you out with this. We'll throw a curveball at you. So I was supposed to shoot a mini episode of The Scene. It was basically going to be centered around the Foxhole going out to OCF. You know what OCF is? If you're local, you know what it is. If you're not local and you don't know Hippie, that's the Oregon Country Fair. Hippie Christmas, basically, in its truest sense. Out there in Veneta, Oregon, site of the historic 8/27/72 Grateful Dead Sunshine Daydream at the historic Renaissance Fairgrounds. It's a magical place. And the Foxhole gets to go out there occasionally, you know, because some people out there, you know, we do things for one another, and I occasionally get cute passes. It doesn't make me anything special. It's just I'm glad to get the opportunity. And this year, I was kind of looking forward to it because supposedly there was going to be a all-star tribute to Bob Weir featuring Steve Kimmock. And I think if you saw my Facebook post, if you're friends with me about, yeah, it's okay to close the book on certain things. And this, I gotta close the book on a lot of this stuff. I've never been fair family, so I'm not gonna poo-poo on the fair because there is something magical about being out there, even when it's hot and dusty late in the afternoon. The happiness and the good energy there, no problems. But you know, it's a hard thing, you know, when you're not fair family because I do feel if you're not behind the curtain or have the ability to, yeah, it gets to be a slog after a bit. I mean, just saying, it is what it is. I mean, not saying I'll never go out there again. If somebody throws me a pass, I'll always go out there early and on a Sunday. But yeah, going out there with my man E, which I definitely was good. Yeah, what can I say about the music? I don't want to, like, you know, in case some people I know love all this stuff or watching this podcast, I don't want to be too harsh. But you know, I mean, like, you watched that one documentary of the Clash. What's it called? Is it called The Rise and the Fall of the Clash by Danny? But there's kind of a nice line somebody has when it comes to the album they made without Mick Jones, Cut the Crap, right? And I think with this all-star tribute, the proof is in the details. And what was so funny, because I know that E and I, because we're hardcore tapers and all that kind of stuff, and kind of travel in that more geekier world where we probably intellectualize about being on the bus and the music far too much for our own good. But I talked to somebody else, one of my soccer pals. She's into the music, but I don't think she intellectualizes it like we do. And when she said that it was, well, you know, kind of meh, I was completely exonerated in terms of like, gee whiz, you actually left that set break. But hey, they had the stream on live so I could watch the second set on YouTube. I didn't need to be there for the second set. There you go. Overall, it's always good to be out at the fair, but sometimes it's okay to close the book on certain things. Even though you think you're getting a moment, sometimes you don't. And when you don't, it shouldn't be too bitter. You should just boogie a set break and not take away from everybody else having a blissful moment with your, I won't say negative energy, but being too real, keeping it real, and leveling things. All right, folks, we've reached the finish line. I know I'm ranting and raving about going to the fair and the Bob Weir tribute that was, well, what it was. As always, keep it real, keep it tight, keep it clean. Stay safe. Definitely stay sane. Avoid the bracelets at all costs. Can we? Ain't nobody got time for any of that. Enjoy some good beverages, good eats, good company with the people that matter. That's always important. Enjoy some incredible World Cup matches. Third place game and the final Saturday and Sunday. MLS starts tonight. El Tráfico tomorrow night. So a lot of things to enjoy on this weekend coming up. All right, folks. Keep it real. Keep an eye out for the next Fostering in a Foxhole. I'm going to try to get it out sometime Saturday afternoon. Like I said, we're really pushing to get back on a somewhat regular schedule, but with so much going on and this soccer summer, we got to do what we can. Or as Cliff Booth says, we try. Okay. Peace, y'all. We'll talk to you real soon.